You're not paranoid.
Like preface stuff.
Preface it.
Preface it.
Preface it with
This episode is brought to you by...
preface it. Ask your doctor if preface it is right for you.
That's really funny. That should
Doesn't
be...
it sound
that
like
sounds like a drug name.
Ooh, trademark.
Ooh. YNP said it first.
Mm-hmm.
YNP. I don't know what I'm doing with my glasses.
Do you want to say something but feel like you need to explain beforehand? Well, now there's preface it.
I'm at a loss for words laughing right now. I feel like it is a drug. Like, I'm kind of tripping out.
Maybe it is.
Maybe.
Or maybe we just say it enough. It'll exist. Come into existence.
I feel like we need it right now. Katie, can I get some of that preface it?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. American Horror Story noises. Or is that, what's it called? AMS.
It looks like you're trying to smoke a joint.
That was my small cup of tea.
Oh, Kylie has
Full of
all
water.
her fingers pinched together.
What's a joint? I don't know what that is.
It's like when two things come together at a point, like your elbows.
Oh. Joint.
Yeah.
So when someone's like, can I have your joint? They're asking for help.
Yeah. Like,
Bending something. Like
yeah,
their
or if
arm.
like they want your like the crook of your elbow to walk across the street or something.
Oh,
like
I was
to put
picturing you walking on your elbows and I got really creeped out.
No, like an old lady that needs help across the street.
Old ladies walk on their elbows across the street. Ew, that'd be kind of painful. I think you need an elbow pad, like little squishy elbow things, like you have for
Like
yoga
the
when you put
tennis
your
balls.
knee down.
That's why they have them on their walkers.
You gotta have some pointy elbows to fit an elbow in a tennis ball.
I think mine are pretty pointy.
Yeah, elbows in general are creepishly pokey. Why?
Why?
Maybe people with sharper elbows survived longer.
Ooh,
'Cause they
yeah,
just
self-defense.
smash people with their elbows. Boom. Anywho.
Anyway,
So today we're talking about nasty stuff.
we are?
Yeah, wait, what?
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
I
for a
think you
split
think this
second.
is nasty.
Yeah, it is gross.
You nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to do with food. Anything food related, I think that is bad
Yes.
is fearful, is stirs up a lot of emotions. What do you think I was gonna say?
I don't know.
Again, we need to take that preface it right now.
Preface it.
Anywho, okay, so we're talking about contaminated,
Tainted meat.
contaminated,
Ew.
nasty.
On You're Not Paranoid.
Oh my gosh, this is our podcast. Sorry. That's Katie.
And that's Kylie.
And we are...
Katie and Kylie. We're
I was
talking.
trying to say our podcast.
We're
You're Not Paranoid. So here we go. Do you want to go first or me go first?
Migos.
Like the singer?
Sure. He's here with us.
Hello, amigos. Tell us about your experience with contaminated.
Contaminated. He's like,
Nest.
let me tell you.
You don't like it.
Don't eat it.
Don't eat contaminated meat.
Yeah, it's like nice and rhymey already. Like a nice little chant.
Oh my gosh. I thought that there was a word for meat that's called rhymey and I got like grossed out. This is an episode where we just giggle for 10 minutes before we start talking.
Yeah. As per usual.
Per the use as we've been told. But sorry, we're trying to have fun and get ourselves like prefaced up.
We're gonna preface it.
They're trying to preface it.
Elvis-y.
That was.
Anyways.
You a little bit Elvis.
I'm a little bit.
Okay. Let's swing those Elvis hips into motion.
I mean, I could start with mine because it's kind of like how we came across the
Yeah.
topic.
That'd be great.
All
Let's do
right.
that.
So I saw an article
Once upon a time.
like last week and it seemed gross. It said that deer in the United States are turning into zombies. And I
Wait,
was
the
like,
deer
what?
are turning into zombies?
Yeah, it's deer. For now, ... The start of a movie. So then I was like, Kylie, look at this. And she's like, ew. And then I was like, let's talk about it.
And I was like,
But not
ew.
now.
I know we do that. We're like, we'll talk about something or we'll bring up a topic. We're like, but don't talk about it yet because I want to hear about it live.
Live.
Oh yeah, if we haven't ever said this, sorry, Katie. We're just like learning about it as we go, so that you guys are getting genuine reactions.
Oh, I see.
That's where you take prefaces.
Yeah. So there's an article about. Well, there's several now because apparently it's a thing that's happening.
It's spreading
right now.
Oh my gosh.
Where the deer in 24 U.S. states and a couple territories in Canada, the deer have what is called chronic wasting disease.
Are they drinking a lot of beer? Like
they're like wasted, bruh.
The deer's like,
it's like
they don't move.
They're just like,
that's
a goat. Deer don't really make noises, do they? Or they go
they
like,
just
meh.
wiggle their noises. No, nose.
They do their noses.
I said wiggle their noises. I was trying to say noses. I like that. Okay.
So what is chronic wasting disease? It is a prion.
Well, they say that in Europe they call it a prion. Here in America, just kidding.
Probably
in the United States, prion is the
accepted.
Yeah, but
pronunciation.
technically, whatever you feel like.
Okay, I'll say prion. What is a prion? Are you gonna talk about that? Do you want me to talk about it?
I mean, you can talk about it.
All
Sounds
right.
like you got more info.
I don't, but they are.
I'll just contribute if I know something different.
Okay. So they are transmissible spongiform encephalopathy. Nope.
That's the disease. That's not what a prion is, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Prion diseases.
I'm
sorry.
No, I forgive you.
I broke it down. I said, what is a prion disease first, and then
I missed.
No, yeah, because I didn't say it the first time.
Okay, cool.
So the disease is a type of transmissible spongiform encephalopathy. No.
Hippopotamus.
TSEs.
Okay.
They're rare, progressive
This is Katie mispronouncing it.
Because I'm also wasted.
I know how to say it.
Just kidding.
Encephalopathy.
Encephalopathy.
Encephalopathy. I like pronouncing things. I think that's how you do it.
Well, encephalitis. So I know what like encephal means, but when I'm trying to put pathies, opathy at the end,
It's Irish.
like not. Oh. Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna do it.
Okay.
These neurodegenerative disorders can affect humans and animals. AKA
And what?
Animals.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
I was doing a little kid voice.
No, you're good.
They usually have long incubation periods. They think that what causes these, surprise, are the prions.
Ooh, yeah.
And basically what I kind of was reading was that prions are basically something that's a pathogen that they can't classify in any of the other types. Like it's not a virus, it's not a bacteria, it's not a fungus.
Yeah, it's
so they're like, oh, this
creepy protein.
Yeah, like an out of control pathogenic protein.
Wasted protein.
It's a wasted protein, and it normally attacks your neurons.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the deer kind of turn into zombies, because their brain, another brain eating kind of scenario we have going on.
Oh yeah,
here.
we like talking about brains getting eaten. Apparently.
Yeah, so the prions are kind of newer in the science community, so they feel like they're not completely understood yet. They just know that there's some sort of weird mutation or something going on that makes these proteins pathogenic and lead to brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually it progresses rapidly, usually, these diseases, and they're always fatal.
Bummer.
Yeah, it's because I don't think we know enough about them. So for chronic wasting, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to?
I was kind of curious if maybe this would be a good part for the scrapey.
Ew.
Bringing up scrapey, like where all of this came from. So apparently the concept of like prions and whatnot has been known for a long time, where it was first recognized in sheep, like a disease in sheep that was like 250 years ago in Europe.
Oh, wow.
And then has been reported throughout the world. Scrapie was characterized by farmers because they noticed that their sheep would like scrape their bodies against stuff a lot. And I think it was like their behind they would scrape, kind of like how dogs do that when they got itchy butt. But in this case, it was something different because it's kind of uncharacteristic of sheep. And then they noticed that other sheep were doing it. And then they did some testing that it wasn't, they basically came to terms that it wasn't a virus and it wasn't a bacteria. And like what you're saying, like they basically ruled everything else out and figured out that it was some kind of infectious agent, like you mentioned. And it wasn't characterized until like much later to like what it is. But I believe that the actual gene itself for a prion has SC next to it, like because prion, like the prion protein exists.
Yeah, and that's not normally.
Yeah, and it's not normally because it's like a misfolded protein. But the SC is in there because it's like the scrapie protein.
Ew.
Which is what it's derived from, and that's why they call it scrapie, because they're like scraping their bodies. Like I said that, but anywho, sorry, that's the information that I kind of saw of like where it comes from. And that it's been around for a long time, and it, like you were saying, it exists in different animals. And I'll actually mention that too later on, but continue with the deer.
Okay.
The freaky deer.
The freaky deer, the zombie deer. The chronic wasting diseases, they can take over a year to develop symptoms, and sometimes they can remain asymptomatic but still have it. And then they'll still die from it, which is kind of weird.
Even without symptoms?
Huh. They have listlessness, stumbling, weight loss, which is where the wasting comes from.
Okay.
And it can affect animals of all ages. And let's see.
Particular deer?
Yeah, this is what's currently happening right now. That
we said like all animals of all ages, so that's why I wanted to make sure that we were talking about deer still.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, this is, yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, so that's what's happening right now, is that they're seeing it in deer. Currently in the US and Canada, but it can be found in other animals.
Creepy.
Yeah.
I feel like if you were like a hunter or something and you saw a deer acting weird, probably shouldn't.
Yeah, don't. That's what the CDC says. Don't. If you see a deer acting strangely, don't kill it. But if you do, don't eat its meat.
Yeah.
And stay away from it.
It's going to suck your blood.
Yeah. Scientists think that this disease is spread through contact with contaminated body fluids and tissue, or indirect exposure to it in the environment, such as in drinking water or food.
What? Like among the deer?
So it's like I don't know if it's like the chicken or the egg thing, like where whoever got it first, but it can spread and then be just in their like watering hole or stuff.
River? That's creepy.
So
that's weird though that there's not that much that they're spread out.
Yeah, and it sounds like it kind of just stays. So it was first found in the 1960s in captive deer in Colorado, and then in wild deer in 1981. And then once it's in an area, it kind of establishes itself, and then the risk of getting CWD increases in that area, like for a long period of time, which is kind of weird.
Which is weird because if it's killing the animal, excuse me,
yeah,
how does it hang out? So it's environmental?
Yeah, they think that it can stay in the environment.
Weird. Like dormant or something.
So that's what it says, even after the infected deer or elk or whatever, because it's mostly hooved animals.
And what about horses?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Or reindeer.
Those are real? Oh, it's Santa. That's not
Santa.
Real. Got it.
Yeah.
I was just kidding.
So that's what I think the CDC is concerned about, is that these prions can just kind of hang out in the environment. I'm assuming once the body like it starts to decompose, then the prions like are just in the environment now. And so that kind of makes these affected areas expand over time. So that's kind of the concern, because so I wrote, like, why is this important? Like, because so far it hasn't been found in humans.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the concern, is that it's kind of increasing this rate of infection among deer, and the fact that it can stay in the environment. The concern is that people eating the contaminated meat from these deer, it'll eventually evolve or figure out a way to infect humans. And then now you have the problem.
Because all it takes is one.
Yeah. And then I don't know if this would be for prions, but for infectious diseases, well, I guess it is because it's infectious, but
it's like an infectious agent.
Yeah. They call it spillover, where it can go from from an animal to a human.
Like host to host.
Change up hosts and that. And stuff. And there are infectious diseases that have done that. So
like the movie Outbreak, that's a virus.
Yeah,
going from
it's mostly virus
to human.
But that's the kind of concern.
Yeah,
but so there hasn't been any like not real cases, like in the wild cases of humans contracting it, but experimentally. Scientists, not humans.
Okay, I was like, wait.
Scientists are studying
When is this
it.
happening?
Let's see. So they have experimentally infected primates, and they do end up getting it.
So like injecting them with like deer meat or what? Sorry, that sounded so rude. I didn't mean it like that.
That just says it's experimentally infect. Squirrel monkeys and also laboratory mice that have human genes.
That just sounds creepy too.
Let's see.
Squirrel monkeys, though, are so cute. Not that any monkey should be subject to this, but yeah, people who don't like hearing about animals getting testing, we're going to talk about it. Sorry.
Yeah, I just did.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continue. The scientists.
Oh, yeah.
They did a study on transmission by feeding the infected meat to monkeys.
I wonder how that tastes.
I don't know. I've never.
I don't want to taste it, but the monk.
I don't think it would taste different than non.
It's probably like ground up and put with their regular food.
I think the scariest part of this was that they also fed asymptomatic deer meat, and the monkeys, they were able to infect the monkeys with it. So I think that's also the concern, is that if it can survive in primates, and then if a human goes and hunts a deer that doesn't seem like it's sick, and then eats its meat, but it actually does have it, then boom, now you.
That's the whole problem with this discussion. Is that you can't tell.
Sometimes. So.
Yeah, especially the yours, because that's no symptoms sometimes.
Yeah.
So then deer are just dying? That's so weird. So wait, can you explain to me the zombie part of it? Is it because its brain is being like hijacked?
Yeah, I don't know if I wrote it down, but I think essentially when the infection or like the pathogenic proteins get into the neurons, it was something about they end up making space, aka like holes in the brain.
Yeah,
once
that's what they were saying.
There.
Like spongy, that's the sponge part.
So, and I mean, I haven't seen them, or I didn't watch any videos, but they say they just kind of like stand there, like listless. And they also have a lack of fear of humans.
Because so their brain is
so they could just be like kind of standing there, and you could walk up to them, and they'd just be like unfazed.
I'm having really weird deja vu right now.
Oh.
I feel like we should do an episode on deja vu as well.
Ooh, we should. That's a good idea.
Also, were Snow White's animals infected? Is that why they were not afraid of her?
Oh. I was like, where are you going
I went on like 30 tangents in my head right now. Maybe I have it too.
Maybe.
Holes in my brain. Oh no.
I know. I was like, I felt really dizzy today, and I was like, maybe that's why. Got
No.
holes in my brain.
No. But okay, so So what are they doing about it
They're studying it.
to characterize it?
Yeah, and seeing if primates can get it, which they can.
Great.
So they say that the studying of it could take a long time, just because the symptoms of the disease take a long time to appear, before they can determine what the risk is, if any, to people. So, and then the other kind of scary part is that the CDC did a survey of U.S. residents a few years ago. Nearly 20% say that they have hunted deer or elk, and more than 2/3 of them said that they have eaten the meat.
Yeah, that's really common.
Yeah,
in
and
like hunting communities to eat the meat.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
you're kind of, they say you're like supposed to, like if you're gonna hunt it, you should eat it.
Yeah.
And, like use all the parts of it.
So it's not just for killing sake.
Yeah. Like actual resource.
Yeah. So that's the scary part. If that there is a decent amount of people hunting and eating deer and elk regularly, it's kind of, I mean, it's more of like a matter of when the spillover happens.
Right.
Kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's what I was looking at.
So if your deer is easy to kill,
yeah.
I mean, what's that saying? Like, if it's too easy, it's not worth it, or something like.
Nothing in life that's
Nothing good in
ever
life.
worth having comes easy, or something like that.
Also, don't kill easy deer. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, but I mean, the asymptomatic ones,
True.
they'll just be normal.
They're like the carriers.
Yeah. They're like, hey,
Or
try
they
to
have
catch
really
me.
dense brains, so the holes don't affect it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like a broken deer at that point.
Oh, poor little
Until it
deer.
just dies. Sorry, I got real sad.
It's okay.
Poor Bambi. Visited family in areas that have a lot of deer, and there's a lot of crosses on the side of the road from people hitting deers, and then
Yeah.
the deer dies and they die, and it's like this whole thing. But that's still a bummer for the deer, and also for humans if people are eating the deer.
Hashtag the vegans were right, question mark.
Hashtag I said the same thing in mine, so you're hilarious. Interesting. Wait, when did this come out again? Or not come out, but
I saw this article this past week.
okay. And then when did they first find out about the deer disease?
Like ever, or this latest outbreak?
Ever.
It was first identified in the 1960s.
Interesting.
In the U.S. This one article I was reading, so I don't know if it's kind of creepy, but this current thing, this outbreak, they're also seeing it in like the Koreas and like Finland or something random. So that's kind of weird.
The government implanted something into all of the deer brains and has now activated it.
Ooh.
Zombie robot deer.
They're gonna take over.
Like bzz, 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 like fighting back against the hunters.
Like the lizard people thing didn't work out, so now they're going up to deer.
Deer zombies. All right. Well, mine's a little more. People have probably heard of this. Yes. I had never heard of the deer zombies personally.
And I think it's a good transition, because this is kind of like yours. I feel like can show when it does cross over.
Right. The crossover.
So it can.
Yeah.
And will. Probably.
It does.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Don't be scared, but be scared.
I mean,
don't eat deer.
It's pretty strange. So we'll just get into it.
All right.
So if you guys haven't been able to tell yet, we are trending towards this topic, which is mad cow disease. Yeah, so mad cow disease. You've heard of it, yes?
Yes.
Do you know anyone affected?
No.
I was hoping you'd say it quickly like we just did. That's okay.
Yes.
No, I meant no. All right, so mad cow disease. This is like kind of the background. So it appeared first in 1986 when it was reported among cattle in the UK. At its peak in January of 1993, it was at the rate that 1,000 cases per week were identified.
Ooh, and just the UK?
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
Yeah. And
Poor
this
cows.
disease, the concern about this disease increased quite significantly in 1996 when they discovered that there was an association between mad cow disease and the human version.
Oh.
Let's go back to mad cow disease.
Okay.
So, thanks. I like that you're on board. So, mad cow disease itself is actually, I just call it mad cow disease because I think it's fun to say. But the official name, as you mentioned earlier, is bovine spongiform encephalopathy. BSE.
BSE.
BS everywhere. No.
Mm-hmm.
What I just said. That's the acronym. But mad cow disease is way more fun to say. And the reason it's called mad cow disease is because it damages a cow's central nervous system, which is like their brain, their spinal cord. It makes them all crazy.
So
like
they
mad
literally
crazy.
are like...
They act a little nutty. Yeah, they're like... The symptoms include them being like really uncoordinated and they have trouble like walking and getting up. They can also act nervous or really violent.
Ooh.
If a cow is violent,
That's scary.
You got issues because cows are they seem like they're really sweet.
Yeah, and then...
They just want to make milk and hang out. Although that's a whole other angry discussion that people have because we force them to make milk. But anyways.
But cows, I think of just the female, which are big, but then the cat or whatever, the steer.
The calf?
No, the male
boy
version. Aren't like, because you're saying cattle, because those are the big.
I'm picturing like dairy cows.
Oh.
But cattle in general.
I think that cow is like the black and white spotted one.
Moo.
But when you're saying cattle are getting it too, then I picture like the big steer. And that would be really scary.
Oh, if they're violent.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes more
sense. Or like uncoordinated and like I think falling into the fences and stuff. Ugh.
Yeah. So that's the part about mad cow. So as you said, very similar, I think there are very similar traits across the different types of spongiform encephalopathy diseases is a long incubation period. So for cows or the mad cow disease, the incubation period is about 4 to 6 years before symptoms, before symptoms even appear.
Wow.
So you can't tell just by looking at a cow whether or not it has those prions as we mentioned.
I wonder what the lifespan of a cow is.
I was wondering that too.
Because that's a long time.
Let's look it up.
They probably live for like 50 years.
Not the way we keep them.
Well, yeah.
Maybe like a wild cow.
Are there such thing as wild cow? That's what I was just thinking. Can you imagine just seeing a wild, like one of the spotted black and white cows?
18 to 22 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I typed in cows into Google and the first thing was cows for sale.
Oh, let's save the cows
a little baby
and eat them.
No.
Just kidding. Have you seen the license plate frame that's like, I love animals. They taste good.
Oh,
it's kind of sad.
I've heard of that, yeah.
But kind of funny. But I like animals.
Wait, what?
What?
Oh, a poster. Whew.
Ooh, have you seen the picture of a cow blow dried?
Yeah.
And how beautiful they are.
With the little blowout.
The little blowout. It's like so beautiful. I'm like, the way that cow feels is how I feel. Yeah, when I get my hair blown out.
This is a Scottish Highland calf.
I like that.
They're so cute.
They look like massive puppies with hooves.
Yeah. Those are the ones that grow the long hair.
Like little bangs.
Yeah.
I want to trim them for them. Okay, so then for mad cow disease.
Sorry.
It's okay. Once the symptoms do happen for the cows or cattle, but I'm just going to call it cows for now. Once they do appear, the cow gets progressively more and more sick until they pass on, which is a nice way of saying die.
Thank you. I wasn't sure what that
meant.
They,
which could be anywhere between 2 weeks from the symptoms appearing to 6 months.
Wow, of it being
that's
like
just
crazy.
Sad. Yeah, until it's like progressively getting madder and madder.
I feel like farmers would just
but who's to say that some of these cows aren't being looked at every single day?
True. Yeah, I guess if they're just doing their thing.
They're just like eating that grass.
On the range.
Yeah. There is no treatment nor a vaccine for it because, first of all, there's little known about what prions are doing and how to treat them. And the vaccinations are for viruses, not proteins. And the prion itself that's getting misfolded exists as a regular protein. Sorry, we're back to the prion thing. But they're misfolded when, I'm just going to talk about it now, I guess. When the misfolded protein touches another protein, I believe of the same type, it then causes that to become misfolded. And it is also contagious. So it's like this creepy, magical, like zombie protein that is just taking over all of the proteins that are in. Because I think I think I was reading it's a cell membrane protein.
I think it's a glycoprotein.
You're right. So I was so that's like more structural. That makes sense because once it has a mutation, it loses structure. So there's no current reliable way for like to test it whether or not a cow has the prions in its brain until it has deceased, in which then it has to be autopsied. And there's tests that you can do where you basically stain it with antibodies to see if it has that particular protein in the brain tissue. You can also image it, and like we mentioned earlier, it's a spongiform disease, so then the brain has holes, making it look spongy. Yuck. What?
Yuck.
Oh.
But it kind of came out
It sounded
weird.
like you were kind of saying some like weird witch chant under your breath, like optica or something, and I'm like, what is that?
I was trying to say yuck, but it got stuck. It got stuck coming out.
Stuck in your throat. Oh, okay. So how do cows get it? So we know that it's prions, but where does it come from?
And where does it go?
And where does it go?
And where does it come from?
Does it have a passport? I don't know. No, it doesn't, because this is really gross, but...
Oh, no.
I wrote this. I'm just going to read this verbatim. This is real gross, but parts of cows that people don't eat are cooked, dried, and ground into a powder, which can be used for several things, including animal feed.
No.
See, I feel like we're all going to go vegetarian after this episode. This is not
so
good.
Yeah. Ugh.
Including...
Is that like what goes into the kibbles?
Yeah. But not after this. So let's get going, is what I was about to say. So cows can get it by eating feed that is that's like food, past tense. Feed.
Own body part.
I know, it's kind of cannibalistic. Cows can get it by eating the food that is contaminated with parts that came from another cow that was sick with the BSE, mad cow disease.
I don't like that.
I know. I have a sad face on there. Not cool. Yeah, so I went on to say that basically they discovered it comes from prions, as we've said, and there's certain parts of the meat of the cow that are more likely to have the prions, which are the brain, spinal cord, retina, optic nerve, dorsal root, and trigeminal ganglia.
Oh, yeah.
All of the
That's
parts.
My favorite
I
part
realized
of
as
the
I was reading this, I'm like, do people eat these specific things? I think they might if they're like really taking in like maybe like in
probably
less mass produced areas, like maybe like villages and something like that are like, or farms that are just cooking it, making it by themselves, not just like factories of cows, which is what most of us end up eating, unfortunately. And it suggests that, so those examples they pose a relatively high risk of transmission. So because those things are eaten by people, they're the ones that are ground up, and then a cow eats another cow that was previously infected, no symptoms, still alive, but has it.
Jeez. Mad
cow disease. The less likely areas are the peripheral nerves, like the sciatic and facial nerves, tonsils. Never really thought about cow tonsils personally. The third eyelid of a cow.
What?
Yeah, that's called the nictitating. Nictitating. I'm just gonna say that membrane. The distal ileum, bone marrow, and possibly the thigh muscle.
Ooh, bone marrow's not good. Isn't that
bone marrow?
Bone broth.
That's a new thing. Yeah, bone broth. Oh, it can be in there.
Have fun with that.
And I think I already mentioned the epidemic, blah, blah, blah. So when this epidemic did happen, because everyone was like kind of freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I told you earlier that there was at one point it was 1,000 cases per week.
And these are just the cows at this point, right?
These are just cows.
Okay.
So that's what I want to bring up. That's what I'm trying to mention. It's like, where does this come from? Because I think I texted you telling you like, hey, like there's more to like mad cow disease is just cows.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's more to the story.
Ooh.
That's the crossover, the
spillover.
Spillover. I'm like, the slipover?
The
The spillover. Ugh, spillover is such a weird phrase.
Yeah.
So the epidemic reached a peak in 1992 and to 1993 when there were 100,000 confirmed cases of cows with mad cow disease. Katie looks really scared.
That's a lot.
In the UK.
That's so many cows.
In the UK. In total, it is estimated that 180,000 cattle were affected.
Wow.
To stop the disease, this part's sad.
They killed them all.
4.4 million cattle were slaughtered.
Whoa, wait.
Because they didn't know. It takes 4 to 6 years to even show symptoms.
So they just like start over?
Picture this. You have cows. Yeah, I don't know how many cattle they had to begin with, but
That has to be so much.
that's significant. So probably the majority, if not all of them, other than the ones that were like being born. Because if you figure you're using the meat from the cattle that isn't eaten by people, grinding it up, putting it back, so you're kind of recycling the cows, cannibalizing them without them even knowing. Wonder if I'd be so sad if they knew. They don't. They're smart, but I don't think they know that.
And it's like, this smells like Jerry.
Oh no! Is it supposed to be like an ode to Ben and Jerry's?
Oh no, but yes.
Could be.
I'll say this.
But yeah, and so the cattle are being fed possibly infected dead cow powder, which is so gross.
But that doesn't seem very scientific if they're just killing a bunch of cattle.
So they don't know what's happening.
What if they're inadvertently killing all the healthy ones and then they're like, these'll do, and they're all the asymptomatic ones?
Yeah, I don't know. But it was really, really bad. So there had been a huge rise in those cases because, like we said, they were being fed the infected meat and bone meal is what they call it.
Yeah.
And so now one of their fixes, simple fix, is that brain and spinal cord don't go back into the food chain. And there's more rigorous
everything else does.
monitoring in place. We'll get to that. So, the spillover.
Uh-oh.
People can get it, but they're not cows, so we don't call it mad cow disease.
Oh, man.
This disease is called variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It's also known as VCJD. And they as in the websites wanted me to make sure I say that there is regular Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, but this is different. It's the variant version. The other one is also a neurodegenerative disorder, but it's not from mad cow disease. So this is similar to that, but it's the variant version, and that's why there's a specified difference. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So the onset of the cases where people were seen to be getting it was in 1994 to 1996, which actually correlates to the time period of the incubation period from when they first saw it in mad cow, or the cows going mad.
Interesting.
Right? As of December of 2017, 231 people worldwide have been known to become sick because of it.
Wow.
3 of those were actually, this is kind of bummer, but secondary blood transfusion related.
Whoa.
So the people didn't know they had it, donated blood, gave it to other people.
No.
Yeah. But can I do math? 228 people were from contaminated meat. And
was this all in the UK as well?
yes, but actually only 4 of those individuals killed lived in the U.S., but it's likely that they only became infected because of traveling. I think they narrowed it down that a lot of those people lived in the UK during that time period, and so likely to have consumed meat the symptoms don't happen right away in humans. As I'm saying it, I don't know how long actually it takes for humans to show the symptoms.
Wait, did you say that there was the 200 and something deaths or cases, or is it the same?
Well, there is no treatment.
Oh, okay.
So, it basically got cut pretty quick, it seemed like.
Because he killed all the cows.
They killed all the cattle. The risk for human health, this is what happens when you try to read off copy and pasted stuff. The risk of people getting sick from it in the U.S. is extremely low.
Yeah, take that.
Oh yeah, but what I was looking up earlier, and that's why I had the awkward pause. So when people do get it, their median duration of illness is 13 to 14 months.
Yikes.
A lot of the people tend to be younger who are affected by it, and the median death is 28 years old.
Wow.
There's a bunch of other diagnostic characteristics, like pathologic characteristics of individuals who have the variant. How do you say that again? I'm gonna say the variant CJD versus the classic CJD, the other neurodegenerative disorder that is similar. But they do have very like specific differences. So I'll have a link online with that chart.
Is the other one you just get it?
I think that one's it's a whole other
different.
like podcast episode, but it's like pretty complicated. I think it could be like inherited, as well as some other factors.
Got it.
But this one is the variant one is specifically from
the contaminated meat.
Yes, from mad cow disease. Exactly. And yeah, you're right. It's a glycoprotein in the cell membrane.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll let you have this one.
Yes.
So, is it contagious?
Ooh.
Like, can people give it to other people?
I'm going to say no.
Or can cows give it to other cows just by, like,
looking
sneezing on each other? Do cows sneeze? Probably.
Yeah.
Like all animals sneeze. Yeah. Like, achmoo. Or like instead of, achoo, it's moo. It's not contagious. It's not like catching a cold.
That's good.
You can't get it from being near an infected cow. And interestingly enough, you also cannot get it from drinking the milk of an infected cow.
Oh.
So
Interesting.
You can't get it from the milk or eating dairy products from a sick cow.
Cool.
So I wrote, sounds like vegetarians are stoked. Because they can still drink the milk. Because they're not vegan. And cheese.
Or yogurt or ice cream.
But the creepy part is that you can't kill the prion by cooking it because it's already misfolded. Typically, like if you're going to degrade a protein to make it dysfunctional, you like cook it kind of like you do with other types of meat. You want to make sure it's either frozen or cooked cooked fully to make sure everything dangerous is killed or unable to then be transmitted in its full capacity. But the prions are already misfolded, so there is nothing else you can do.
Oh boy.
The link between the mad cow disease and VCJD, that's the human one, the human cows, where the link for those two was discovered in 1996. And they actually did a lot of animal testing as well. So like once this happened, everyone was freaking out.
I remember the big craze about mad cow disease.
Yeah. It was like a huge deal because people like burgers. And if you hear that you can die from eating the meat of a crazy cow, like that's terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, that's not cool. So they did a lot of studies on animals. One experimental study in June of 1996 showed that there were 3 types of macaw monkeys. I think macaw, right? Yeah,
sure.
Macaw monkeys were inoculated with the brain tissue from the mad cows. And they ended up developing the clinical and neuropathological features that are very similar to those of the human version. And another study in 1997 showed that when they inoculated a panel of, they specified inbred, I don't really like that, but inbred mice with those agents because they were still trying to figure out what was going on, aka prions. But the agents that are causing the mad cow disease and the VCJD were inoculated, and they also had latency periods and lesion profiles consistent with the mad cow disease. I'm assuming that's their brains.
I'm laughing because Kylie has her pointer fingers out and she's kind of moving
Making
them
my
around
brain turn
to her points.
But
like she's swimming.
The thing is that there were experiments done on lab mice. I'm trying to get through this, where they were injected with human brain tissue. I don't remember copying this, but this is creepy. Long story short, they all kind of acted crazy like mad cows. Mice went mad, like they were seeing in people and the cows.
By having the tissue in them.
It can be transmitted if you eat it, and if you inject it into you, or into the mice, don't inject it in yourself, but the mice or the primates, that it can then still have the same effect if it is in your body. It works its way to like the nervous system and destroys your brain, the central nervous system.
So basically. It doesn't matter what species you are.
No. Oh yeah, good point. Doesn't matter what species you are. So long as like monkeys aren't going around eating cows. There won't be any spillover there, I suppose, but
you never know.
Then again, I think these mice were specifically genetically modified GMO mice. What do they call those?
Like,
what's the word?
Like lab mice?
Yeah, but there's a word for lab mice. Transgenic?
Oh, yeah.
Transgenic. Okay. Transgenic mice. That means that they have genes that don't belong to them, but they're purposefully put into them to do studies. Kind of sad, but helpful.
Yeah.
To science. So anyways, that was all a really bad explanation, but I think you get the point. Don't eat. They're eating contaminated meat. They did studies because they weren't sure if it was for sure from the cows. They're saying yes. So it makes sense that if the cows eating the other cows get it, then people eating it, monkeys getting injected, mice are getting it. There's something in that particular meat.
Yeah.
That is not right. So what has the FDA done?
Probably nothing.
That's super untrue. So, and this is kind of funny actually. So since August of 1997, the FDA doesn't allow most parts of cows and other animals to make food that is fed to cows. I know. So there's still
like, why just say no? Why does it have to be like, you can do this one, but not this part, and this part, but not this part?
Because apparently the prions are mostly affecting the central nervous system.
Mostly, though.
So, AKA making sure that they're not feeding the cows more infected cows.
Yeah, that's always a good idea.
Just makes me kind of sick. I don't want to be vegetarian now.
You don't want
to? I
do?
Do kind of.
Yeah.
In April of 2009, the FDA banned this is okay, so it wasn't until 2009 that they actually decided the specific parts of the cows should not be put into the cow food, including pet food. So that's pretty recent. The high-risk cow parts are the brains and the spinal cords from cows that are 30 months of age and older. Pretty young. Hope they're not grinding up baby cows. That's just sad.
Yeah.
So the USDA, people who are vegetarian probably hate me right now.
Well, is that what they do? To keep them...
Hate me or grind up cows?
They keep the moms producing milk. They keep making them give birth.
Something like that.
And then they discard the males. Most of them. Because they don't really...
Bummer.
Have use for.
That's just sad. I'm not ready for that right now. The USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. I know that's kind of hypocritical of me to not want to hear about it because that's what we're talking about in all of our podcast episodes. Is stuff you don't really want to hear about, but probably should. One day I'll go vegetarian, I'm sure. Maybe it's tonight. So the U.S. Department of Agriculture also has a rule that this seems like a pretty fair rule, that if there are any signs of a disease, that those cows should not be used to make food.
Oh, that's good.
It's like rule number 1.
When was
if
that
your cow
rule
is gnarly,
like last year?
Pretty recent. And then, I mean, since like 2009, so I believe. And then only 5 cows have been found in the U.S. with the mad cow disease. And the last cow with it was found in July of 2017.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh, this is another little scary fact for you.
Oh.
So there's actually 2 types of mad cow disease.
Oh.
I didn't know this.
I did not know
There's
that.
classical, like classic. Oh, that classic mad cow. And atypical. So classical is caused by the contaminated feed being fed food. No,
so sad.
Fed food to other cows. Whereas atypical, so that was classical, like more likely or whatever. Atypical is rarer and happens spontaneously. Usually in cows that are 8 years plus.
The elderly.
Older. The old cows. So of those 5 cows in the U.S. found with mad cow disease, 4 of them were atypical, meaning it happened randomly.
So that means just within themselves, the proteins are going wacky?
They found it within themselves to misfold the proteins.
Or is it like the deer thing where
they don't know. So,
no.
I think we said this offline, as in like not recording, but this is the part that's really frustrating about this topic, about prions in general, prions, is that there is information, but also not a lot of concrete known facts.
It's like the new
in terms
virus.
of humans, at least. And even because by the time that you realize the cow or the animal has it, it's basically too late to see how, like, to study the animal
and like where it was
to trace it. So you'd have to like be going around infecting. Maybe they're doing it like in the black lab market. I'm trying to say like black market for labs. That came out weird, but like in just injecting cows and seeing like what happens. Or same with, I mean, they're doing that to monkeys. So
yeah.
But there's just like, it's hard. This topic was really hard because as much information as there is, there's also not, which is why it's such a scary thing to think about. And I don't remember if we said this, but other animals can get it, as you alluded to, and I talked about earlier. So other animals, including sheep, which is where it was like first described in, goats, mink, deer, the wasted, and elk. And you're gonna love this. Cats.
Of course.
Are the only household pet that can get it.
Of course. If they can, they will.
No, but in the U.S., no cats have gotten it.
Yet. They just don't. They probably have it, and they can hide it on purpose.
Okay, so last closing arguments. Moving on. August 23rd, 2001. The U.S. The Department of Health and Human Services issued a department-wide action plan to outline the steps to improve scientific understanding of mad cow disease.
That's good.
And other forms of the SEs, the spongiform encephalopathies, are the transmissible ones, the TSEs, as you mentioned. The action plan has 4 components. So I'm going to say this is in the U.S. because these all look like familiar names. So they're doing surveillance for human disease, which is the responsibility of the CDC, which is the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Prevention, I think, is a new thing. Could also be the CDCP, but whatever.
That was already taken.
Yeah.
Probably.
The FDA is primarily responsible for the protection of the people, I'm guessing, and making sure that it's being like regulated. The research is being done by the NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health, and the oversight for all of this is the responsibility of the Office of Secretary of the DHHS, which is, as I mentioned earlier, the Department of Health and Human Services. So the U.S. is taking it very seriously. Good. And we're like really terrified it's going to happen over here because we got a lot of cows too. And like after the whole thing happened in the UK, a lot of people banned the transport, like, because I think that the UK was exporting a lot of cow meat, and so they basically put a stop on that for a long time. And maybe that's why US has so many cows now.
Probably.
We're like, yeah, we don't need your cows. So since then, there have been about 16 cases, or not about, there have been 16 cases in the UK in the past 7 years, but which is way better than the crisis of thousands per week between 1980s to 1990s.
Wait, for people or?
No, the cows.
So
That's
they
the
still
thing,
have
it's like,
16 cases of the cows getting it still?
Yeah.
Dang, so they haven't gotten rid of it.
It's not gone.
And
actually,
it's not gone, girl.
It's still here, girl.
That's the sequel.
This is... She's like, still crazy. There's an article from October 18th of 2018. You're going to love this. So you know how you like to make fun of me about cats? Well, the first case of mad cow disease in Scotland in a decade has been confirmed after a cow died.
Yeah, they have a lot of cows in Scotland.
Yeah. They have, for this particular cow, the government imposed a movement ban on the affected farm, which they haven't named, which I think is kind of nice because they don't want people to freak out if they have the meat from that farm yet, I guess. And they're still investigating like how the cow got infected because they don't know yet. And luckily, the infected animal didn't enter the human food chain. I'm assuming because it was probably acting weird.
And then died.
Yeah. And so they're like, let's separate this one out. So they're like, no, there's no risk to human health, says the food standards in Scotland, and that it's an isolated case. But how do they really know that if it comes from...
Exactly.
So that's the part that's kind of sad.
Oh, Scotland.
And other cattle that had been in contact with the animal will be, this is sad,
Killed.
Traced, isolated, and then destroyed in line with the EU requirements. But do they listen to this podcast? Because if they did, they would know that just because you're in contact with it doesn't mean you get it.
Come on, man.
Unless they got the deer one.
Yeah.
Maybe it's spilling over into the way it's...
Well, because it does say hooved.
Yeah.
And they're hooved.
Do they have a lot of deer in Scotland?
I think so.
Boom.
Just saying.
Boom. Bummer.
Dial
I feel like this was kind of a rough one for me. I'm really sorry. Like I said, there's so much to know. My brain has trouble grasping something that is so dangerous and yet so little information available. Considering, like the whole Prion thing. It's a mind twist.
Yep. I'd never really heard of it. I mean, I'd heard of mad cow disease.
Like years, yeah.
But I didn't know what prions were and that they're responsible for many different types of neurodegenerative, transmissible, contagious diseases.
Yeah. I know. I think it's weird. I wonder what the difference between contagious and transmissible is. Just saying. Because
I think they have different...
Because yours is contagious in the way of like they don't know what's happening with the environment. It
can be exchanged through bodily fluids.
Ew. That just grosses me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like deer sharing needles or like...
Well, I think that's where they say like probably in where they drink their water. Because their saliva is getting in the water and then another deer comes along and drinks.
That makes more sense
saliva water.
than them sharing needles. I said that earlier, but you didn't get it, so I had to say it again.
I didn't even hear it.
Because I said it so matter-of-factly. Yeah. But, yeah. Yeah, and the prion protein's already there. And the fact that even in mine, not mine personally, but the one I talk about, that the atypical case, it can just happen spontaneously that they know of currently.
I feel like it has to be from the environment. Because I feel like you would just see more of it.
And the fact that it's contained.
Yeah. Because if the protein could just misfold at any time, I feel like you would see that more often.
Yeah. Or, yeah, why would it happen? Like the ones in the U.S., why is it that suddenly these 4 out of the 5 have the atypical one?
Maybe it's not so atypical.
Yeah, because they said it's more rare, but...
I like my meat like I like my diseases. Rare.
Oh my goodness. The one that doesn't make sense to me is how is it that one can have the kind that is caused by eating contaminated cow, whereas the other cows aren't affected? Maybe since then the cows have a mutation that protects them.
Maybe. They're
Over
like,
all
I guess
these
we're gonna have to
years.
eat ourselves. Let's
You
evolve.
can't be like, you can't really be immune to it, but it's just weird. I don't know. It's freaky. We're well, you wouldn't believe it, but we like science and do some of it sometimes. And
we do science sometimes.
And still struggle with grasping this.
Do you think we should be paranoid about it?
According to this, it says no, because there's so many regulations in place for the U.S. And I think since the outbreak was so insane, in the 1990s, like late 80s, early 90s, that we are now like hypersensitive to catching any. And same with the deer is a new thing. The
deer one's the new one, and that's why I think they're. I think all these articles were written about it because there was some guy who went to Congress or something, like a scientist, and he's like, yo, like we need to be on top of this, like it could basically be the next. And I think they cited, or some of the articles cited, the mad cow disease. Like this could be the next one. Yeah, I think that's probably the more positive thing, is that deer isn't a really big meat source,
are as accessible.
Yeah, for the U.S. Like these mad cow diseases were like on farms. Yeah, like meant to distribute.
Yeah, meat for food.
So.
Yeah. I think if we were back in the 90s, we'd definitely be more freaked out. Yeah. Side comment: there was a picture of one of the health officials in the UK during this freak out era. My brain. I did not even eat burger today. Actually, I had bacon. Oh no.
Swine flu.
So it was really sad. There was this picture of a health official saying like, no, like these things aren't from the cows. And there's a picture of him holding a burger.
No.
And his daughter holding a burger. And they're like, look, like we can eat it and we're fine.
No.
Yeah. To like publicize, like, don't stop eating our meat. Like trying to like calm people down. That was before the link was verified to be that spillover for humans.
Did he die?
No.
Okay.
And I don't think his daughter actually took a bite. She was just posing with it and like already bitten into burger. But isn't that so interesting that he's like, this is fine. It's like, how do you know? Probably got paid by the farms or something.
Big meat.
Big pharma. The real big pharma.
The real big pharma.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So crazy. So I'll have to post that picture because it's like, this is great. Like burgers are great. But
it's so awkward
to think they could have been eating contaminated meat.
I know. That could have been a contaminated one.
But if you experience this or your parents experience this, I was talking to my dad. He's like, yeah, I remember this was like a huge deal back then. And it could become more prevalent as we go because, other animals are affected by it. So who's to say?
Yeah.
I think just being aware.
Yep.
Go vegetarian. But not vegan because you can still drink the milk. It's fine. But anyways.
Yeah.
I have a joke for you.
Okay.
This is from Comedy Central. So you know it's good.
It's legit.
It's under all categories. Arrow, blue collar, arrow, mad cows. 2 cows were talking in the field. One cow says, have you heard about the mad cow disease that's going around? The other cow answers, yeah, makes you glad you're a penguin, doesn't it? Because he thinks he's a penguin because he's got the mad cow disease. And he has the disease. You're not making this easy.
Well, I think that's part of it, isn't it? 'Cause it's the same colors.
Yeah, that didn't even cross my mind. I was just thinking that he thinks...
Oh, yeah.
He's a penguin because he's mad. Never mind. Delete the joke.
No! Keep it.
And you want to go get a burger?
Sure.
Yum. Not even, yeah, I was gonna say a deer burger, but they are not good too. Anyways, this is, how do we close this one out?
Thanks for listening.
Oh yeah, thank you for listening.
You can reach out to us at you'renotparanoid@gmail.com.
We have an Instagram, You're Not Paranoid. Twitter is YNP Podcast. Still getting used to that one.
Yeah,
We also have a website, you'renotparanoid.com, where you can also find access to the links to listen to our podcast and the various different are the same
however
thing.
you listen to them.
Yeah. iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher Podcast, Google Play,
etc.
Whatever you find your podcasts. And maybe one day, if you guys keep listening, we'll end up giving you more fun content that will result in a Patreon account.
Yeah.
So share it. Tell your friends and family.
Yeah.
Protect them from the prions.
Mm-hmm.
You're not paranoid for listening to this. And no, we don't want you to get more paranoid for listening either, so.
Yeah. It's all good.
So thanks.
Thank you.